Hello there. Always nice to do these. It's very inspiring for me. I'm sure it's nice to flick through YouTube and come across things that can actually make a difference in your day. What's fascinating about YouTube for me is I really like to use it as a time to either be inspired or just to relax and know that the world's okay. So I look for things that make me happy, things that make me laugh. And I wanted to talk about that today. It's very interesting that we're living in a world which has so much change happening in it. It's like we've all been exposed to, and it was probably pretty hard not to be affected in the last couple of years. And the amount of changes that we've seen appear to be much more dramatic than perhaps we're used to. You know, often in the past, we could have had a lot of similarities day in, day out, month by month, routines that seemed the same, ideas of where things were going, plans that seemed obvious and perhaps even repetitive. So that changed a lot for people, for most people, with the start of the COVID and with lots of lifestyles having to be completely changed and rearranged, regardless if it was work or family, or even just not even staying at home as much as you used to. It brought up a lot in people about how we see ourselves and what is important for us. And it also created a lot of, what's it called, retrospect or introspect, when you take a good look at yourself and then realize or make decisions based on if you needed a new direction or needed something to change. Nothing stays the same. We might not have realized it so obviously previously in our lives, but it's always been a world of change, a body of change, days of change, emotions that change, opinions that change, thoughts changing, our ideas, our concepts. So this world of change isn't something new. It perhaps just became way more in our face, way more apparent to us just recently. And for us to cope, surrender, embrace, maybe those were just new things for us. Or when there was just small changes happening or one or two changes happening, it was obvious or important to cope, surrender, and embrace. But when there's a lot changing, it really puts into our view how important it is to actually manage what's going on. Not manage as in a control, but manage as in see it for what it is. Move with it. Make decisions accordingly. React, counter-react, overreact, underreact. I mean, we cope based on information we have, or based on how we feel, or based on just how it is in that moment. There's no rule book, is there? So we all deal with how our life is going or how changes take us from left to right. We all deal with it in our own way, our beautiful, unique way. Surrender is an interesting word because that can be done willingly or unwillingly. Like we can hold on for dear life and then reluctantly let go, or fingernails down the board, let go, like no. And yet there we are, there comes the surrender, because the change is happening or has happened. And this could refer to everything in your life. It could be the health of a loved one. It could be work, or how entertaining or precious your work is. Perceived in one moment, then changes. Your viewpoint changes in another. So surrender is recognizing the change and then doing it, letting it. Embracing is when all resistance has been let go of. You're no longer fighting. You're no longer struggling with it. And so embracing is the opposite, when you realize that it's not just coping, it's not just a reluctant surrender or I surrender. But embracing is when you just go, yeah, all right, let's go in this new direction. What's here now, God? And how we go through these processes, these three different steps, I guess, of change, is unique and individual to ourselves, to our personalities, to our opinions and ideas, to even to some degree the bigness of the change can affect a lot. Our interactions with it, our need to cope, our ability to surrender, and our desire to embrace. There's so many different situations and components to situations that could change all of that accordingly. But that's what makes it so exciting, because that's where you get seen you. There's no right way. There's simply your way. And no one else should be able to judge you on that. They do, of course, because that's what humanity does. Our points of view are judgments. But the reality is you have the right to just explore and stumble and fumble your own way through it all and discover in your own way that acceptance. And it doesn't matter how long it takes, does it? Does it matter how graceful it was or how loving it was? Does it matter, or is it perceived to be a certain way? And yet the perceptions could be wrong. Are you allowed to be wrong? I hope so. Are you allowed to be right? I hope so too. I think perception is a dangerous thing, but also an interesting thing, and of course, a beautiful thing. Different perceptions can create wars. We've seen it throughout the history of humanity. My phone's buzzing away. Differences of perceptions are exciting because it creates a uniqueness and opens us up to different points of view. Super, super exciting. The limits of my ceiling is through what I've been taught, what I know, what I understand. And so different perceptions break open that ceiling, raise that ceiling so that there's room to grow and explore. Opens your mind to different possibilities, to places you hadn't been before. So other perceptions are vital. to just simply open us up to more. And like I said, perception can also be dangerous in the fact that you don't want to just take on another perception because it feels good or sounds good. Sometimes you do. Why not? You have the right to be whoever you want to be. And others' perceptions. The word dangerous is an interesting choice, but it's dangerous, I guess, if a dangerous perception. Putting a ceiling back on something that wants to be opened up. Or a perception that doesn't know the truth or hasn't opened up to more. And then that's been sold to you. That could be dangerous too. This is the way it is. And you're like, not really. I love an analogy of that I heard ages ago, and I just love it. It's like putting 6 people in a room blindfolded, and none of them have ever heard about, listened to, or seen what an elephant is. One person is getting told to touch the knees and then explain what an elephant is like. And they will describe it as warm, wrinkly, maybe some other words. One blindfolded person gets told to touch the trunk and explain what an elephant is like. And they'll say, warm, soft, long, maybe moist if they're touching the end. So it's different to the knee, right? Another blindfolded person gets told to touch the belly. What is an elephant like? And they'll say long and wet. Of course it's not. It's warm, but it's smooth and wide and fuzzy. Definitely not long and skinny or wrinkly. Not that at all. And another person got told to touch the ear and explain what an elephant is like. And they were like, how are people saying it's wide and smooth or wrinkly? It's just spiky and thin. Another blindfolded person gets told to touch the tusk. What's that like? What is an elephant like? Super smooth, cold, nothing wrinkly about it, nothing thin about it, nothing wide about it. Heck no, that's not true at all. Another person gets told to touch the tail. What is an elephant like for you? Spiky, short, thin, skinny. This is an elephant. Cold? No. Wide? No. Thin? No. Are you kidding me? Who's right and who's wrong? They're all right because it's their truth. They're all slightly misleaded, which could be classed as slightly wrong. They don't know the whole picture. Will they defend for their perspective and sell their perspective to others? Possibly. Will they back it 100% because they know they're right? Possibly. Are they right? Yes and no. What I love about that analogy is it very much reflects on any one of us that holds on to any opinion. It might be what we've heard, it might be what we've been told or what we've been taught, or it might even be our experience. It might be our experience from 20 years ago, and it might be completely different today. It might be our experience from a week ago, and it might be different today, or the same. But it's perspective. And that's where it's a scary thing or a dangerous thing, because it can change. But we can't hold on to it and demand that it's right. And it can change. And it should change, right? But it leaves us to be curious about people's perspective and how strongly passionate they could be about backing it, trying to sell you on it, trying to make you believe it too. You should be interested in even your own perspective. To not draw a line in the sand, to not hold it as the absolute truth, to not defend it, to not feel personally responsible for it. Like, really doesn't matter. It really shows character. If you believe you have a cause you need to fight for, and hold on to that perspective with two hands. Some people like that character, feel it's something that's strong and supportive, shows your own strength, something they can lean against. And again, who are you that needs to lean against anything? Do you? Very interesting, isn't it? And what about yourself? Your own perspective. Are you allowing it to change? Are you allowing it to be whatever it is in the moment? It's a very interesting question, because everything changes. Our interpretation of things change. Our experience of things change. So who are we being? Who are we determined to defend, or what concepts are we holding on to? One thing that doesn't change is that infinite space, the eternal stillness, the one place where continuous peace resides, where unconditional love resides. I believe as humans we dance in and out of that, but the knowledge of that, the recognition of that, the ability to rest there and know that can be eternal, can be a constant. Meditation allows us to recognize that, to surrender to it, and to embrace it. It allows us to cope with the challenges, to surrender those hardcore positions or those limiting perspectives, and allows us to embrace the changes, the new concepts, the less demanding concepts, allows us to embrace what is without needing to box it somehow or hold on to it somehow, own it, or try to mold it somehow. It doesn't mean we put so much importance on things and ultimately it just doesn't really matter. And in things not really mattering is the greatest of peace and of the greatest of love. Doesn't mean that we become loveless. Instead, we become love more. Or even recognizing that love is always there, regardless of the changes. And that's a very, very beautiful thing. It's what you gain with meditation. You lose the worry, you lose the ownership, but you gain the peace. Thank you.